All right, guys, welcome to this exciting interview. I have one of my friends here with us today, Sam. And Sam, you've been detailing, for a while now. You built a pretty successful detailing business that does six figures per month. And really, the whole goal of this interview is to just learn some strategy, wisdom, tactics, hear a little bit more about your story because right now there's really probably two to three types of people watching this video. Type A is someone who maybe is looking to start a detailing business. They already know how to detail cars. They do it as a passion or a hobby, and they're looking to like take this thing serious and, get it to the next level. The second type of person that is watching this video is probably somebody who is in a place where they have a detailing business. They're just starting out, like taking it serious and, probably at max doing like 10K a month. And then the third type of person is doing above 10K a month and really looking to get it to, 40, 50, 60, even $100,000 a month. So, man, super pumped that you decided to take the time to do this interview with me. And I think a great place to start is like, talk to me about your story and journey on what made you decide to get a detailing business going.
All right. So first of all, I appreciate you, Travis, for just giving me the opportunity to even jump on this video and add value to your audience. But my journey is pretty unique, and like I can kind of see it as a complete story. But prior to starting my business, I've been in business for about 8 years now. And prior to starting my business, I worked for a company which I'm gonna leave unnamed, but that company, they were contractors. They're a third party company that worked with different dealerships. And I was fortunate to be a detailing manager at one of the Ferrari locations. And so at this Ferrari store, once you've detailed Ferraris and Maseratis and Lamborghinis and things of that nature, at some point you're like, yo, like what's next? Like where do I go from here? Because once you detail those cars, like you're just curious. And I had a buddy at the time who just planted the seed. He was like, yo, Sam, you should start a detailing business. And I didn't know anything about detailing business at the time, and it was just a seed that was planted. And one day, I decided to reach out to my boss, and I was like, "Hey, I was thinking about starting a business. Like, what do you think?" And I kid you not, he laughed at me in the most disrespectful way, and in that moment, I can feel just something inside of me, like really just it just something blew up. And I was like, you know what? I have to start a detailing business because you're not going to tell me that I can't be successful or I can't make money or anything. And I put my 2 weeks notice in. I quit my job. I didn't have
And
any
I'm not
customers.
trying to interrupt you, but I think that's so powerful because maybe someone's watching this video right now and they're in a similar place, right? Like many people, they're working a 9 to 5 or they're working for a boss and they're like, there's got to be more that I could
Right,
do. So I don't have to,
right,
you know, be a slave to my boss who tells me when to check in, when to
right.
check out, and what to do, when to do it, even if, I'm in a place where I don't want to do it. So I love that, man.
Yeah. And when I quit, I didn't have any customers. I didn't have any equipment. I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have anything. Right. And I was just really riding on faith at this moment. And if there is anybody who's watching this video, I recommend do not quit your day job to start a detailing business.
I
It's
was
probably
just gonna ask you that, right? And for those of you watching this, what I love to do when I do interviews is I like to keep it very conversational because there's some golden nuggets that you guys could get out of this conversation that could change everything for you. Because, like Sam, we've heard the stories of people leaving their job and then building these $1 million businesses, and we love those stories. We appreciate those stories, but many times that's not everyone's story.
right.
And I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs now who say, man, I should have kept my job and built this business on the side. And then as, the business grows, I could then get it to a place to replace my salary and go all in. So talk about that for a moment for people who are, contemplating making that decision.
Yeah, so I would highly recommend if you are, whether you're in detail business or whether you're looking to get into clean, whatever business you're looking to get into, is, keep your day job and just do detailing on the side. Maybe like on the weekends, you can, visit neighbors or friends and start there, right? Start building your business on your days off. And then once you feel like your side job can replace your day job, then you can decide to quit your business. But until you have the steady flow of customers, until you have a steady flow of work, you're prepared and you have everything in place, don't make that transition. Now, it's never going to be completely smooth, right? You're never going to fully be ready, and there is going to need to have, you're going to need to have a little bit of faith in order to make that complete jump. But definitely you want to take your time and just give yourself a chance to, just build your business. Because again, if you do what I did, there are very few people that can really survive. And I thank God that, there were opportunities for me where I actually found a company who was looking to hire contractors. I think it was on Craigslist, and they were sending me work. They were sending me free work. They would get a certain percentage off of every vehicle that I detailed, but they would send me consistent work, and so that's what kind of kept me afloat. But not everyone is going to have that opportunity, and so I would definitely recommend, like, if there is anyone who is looking to start a detailing business, just on the weekends or on your day off, just build your business on the side, and again, as that builds, that's when you can make that transition.
That's awesome. So talk a little bit more about you're in a place where you knew this was the direction you wanted to go. Like, what were your next steps? Like, and in the story, talk about it from the perspective of someone who's like they're in the initial stages right now, right? They're trying to get detailing going. So like what happened next? Like what were the next steps to put you on the path to getting to six figures a month?
So for me, one of the main things that really got me to get to that six-figure point was developing leadership abilities. Now, let me back up. Before you even get to leadership abilities, you have to first master your craft, right? If you're looking to make six figures while you're detailing a business, if you don't know how to clean cars, it's going to be hard for you to be out in the field and make six figures a year. It's just not possible. Now, if you've got a team, that's completely different. But first and foremost, master your craft, right? Whether it's buffing, whether it's scratches, whether it's ceramic coatings, you have to know how to apply all these things, because the fastest way to make six figures is you're going to need to know how to buff cars. You're going to need to know how to apply ceramics. And one of the biggest lessons, and this is a takeaway, this is a gem for everybody. One of the biggest takeaways that I took from working at Ferrari is there are detailers who have this ego mentality where they feel like they can clean anything, they can buff anything, they can remove any scratch. One of the biggest lessons that I've learned is it's not about knowing what to do. Sometimes it's about knowing what not to do, right? And at Ferrari, there were vehicles that had some decent, reasonable scratches that I could have gotten out, but I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna mess with this one because I don't want to ruin, this paint. I don't want to even take the chance. And if I damage this vehicle, it's gonna cost me what, thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars to repaint this vehicle. And so, there are a lot of mistakes that I would have made in the field if I didn't work in the dealerships first and I didn't learn these lessons. And oftentimes, detailers will jump into the detailing business and they're practicing on customer vehicles and they're making mistakes, they're damaging vehicles, and it's just like, yeah, that's, you got to master your craft first. And so, mastering your craft, but then when it gets to the leadership aspect of it, learning how to communicate, right? With whether it's with customers, learning how to cast a vision for your business, right? If you don't know where you're going, right? If you don't have a vision, how can you know where you're going? And so if you don't have any direction, you're not going to know how to make six figures. You're not going to know how to make seven figures. And so the biggest thing is mastering your craft, but also developing those leadership skills and those visionary skills to be able to put yourself in a position to actually succeed.
That's gold. And how long would you say it like took you to get to that magical, and I say magical, I don't even like that word, but it's like everyone just thinks like the goal is 10K a month. And so how long did it take you to get to 10K a month starting from scratch with your
Um, so
business?
for me, when I started 8 years ago, and I wish I had the resources now that back then. But I would say it took me a few years actually to get to 10K a month. I was growing, I was maturing. I was 23 at the time when I started my business. So, and I didn't have a coach. I didn't have anyone who was teaching me how to build a business. I was learning as I went on. And so it took me a few years. It took me maybe I would say 3 years maybe before I was actually making 10K a month. But after that, after those 3 years, I went from 10K a month to 30, 40K a month. We had this huge jump once I integrated dealerships into my business. But it took me a while. But knowing what I know now, it should have taken me maybe 3 or 4 months. It shouldn't have taken me that long.
And that was like my other thing I was gonna say, right? Because I don't know why this happens, but like me being an entrepreneur, I've learned some lessons. I've learned you could try and do everything on your own. You could try to figure it out. You could try to watch YouTube videos. You could try to scroll reels all day long. And one of the common things I learn about like entrepreneurs such as yourself, Sam, is like you went that route initially, but it took you so much longer when, like, for instance, if you were to go back to yourself when you were just getting started with what you know now, how quickly do you think you would be able to get to 10K a month?
Oh, easily 2 to 3 months, easily.
Okay, 2 to 3 months, right? So do you feel like if you were to go back to yourself, right? What advice would you give yourself just getting started? Like, would you have got a coach? Would you have gotten a mentor? Would you have hired an agency? Like, what would you have done to ensure you got to 10K a month?
I definitely would have got a coach. There are a lot of different coaches, and you don't have to spend, 50K on a coach, right? There are a lot of coaches who, focus specifically on detailing. But within that coaching, they offer, different ads, different agencies that help them, and so they can integrate their systems in your business. But definitely get a coach, number one. But also I think I was just overthinking way too much. Like I was focusing on, okay, what products do I need? Like, should I get this product? Should I get that product? Should I get this tool? Should I get that tool? Like, tire shine is tire shine at the end of the day, right? Window
It's
clean.
like the thing that I'm learning, the thing that a lot of detailers do is that, bro. It's like they're like, I need to get a van, I need to get chemicals, I need to get this product, I need to try this, when really they should be asking themselves, how can I get more customers? Because
Right,
that's the thing that's actually going to increase your business at the end of the day is you don't
right,
need chemicals, bro. Like you don't need a van, you need clients.
right,
And if you can
right,
get clients effectively, you can
right,
more than pay for that stuff. So
right.
talk to the detailer right now. He's like on the edge of getting a coach. Like, oh, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna figure it out on my own. I'm gonna keep watching videos like this, and I'm gonna try to run Google ads myself. Like, what would you say to that person? Because I find a lot of like detailers, I don't know why. It's like they have to prove that they could do it on their own, and then 27 years goes by and they're still, stuck.
Yeah, yeah. I think there are a lot of limiting beliefs and a lot of mental blocks that hold people back from wanting to get coaching. And again, just like you said, like there's this ego mindset where it's just like I gotta prove the world wrong. It's me against the world. But you don't gotta spend, like I said, $50,000. Like just by simply joining a community, right? You can join a detailing community, you can join a business community, doesn't matter, but join a community where you can put yourself in an environment where there are people who are like-minded, but also, you're gonna be able to learn and take strategies and implement it in your business. And so, oftentimes we feel like, well, I don't have $1,000 or $2,000 or $5,000. You don't need to start there. Just start by jumping into a free community, right? Or find out where other detailers are located, like interact, network with different people. And so definitely look into a coach. But if you can't afford a coach, or if you're not ready for that, if you don't feel like you're ready, then that's fine. But just find a community and plug yourself in.
That's good. And it's funny, it's like, for me, when I launched my detailing business a year ago, which I still don't know how to detail, I still don't know how to, do ceramic coating, but because I understand business and I was willing to invest 100 grand into coaching to get skills that helped me build, a company to over 7 figures a year, I've been able to implement that in the detailing. Like, as we're speaking, I mean, I have one of my detailers out just collecting money and doing work while I'm having this interview with you. And so for those of you on here, one Bible verse I love says, "Do not despise the day of small beginnings." And everyone starts somewhere, and you get to decide how quickly you grow the business, right? If the business is not growing as quickly as you want it to, it's because you're not doing the right things. And so that's why it's important to get someone like a coach that has already proven the process. Like, I find it funny that so many people will spend 40,000 to 100,000 and beyond for 4 years of college where they're not even making money during those 4 years. And
Right,
then most people don't even land a job in their area of study,
right,
right? And it's like, what makes more sense? Taking 40 to 100K and putting it into a college degree, or taking like 20K, getting a coach for the business you're wanting to start and scale, and just paying them a fraction of that price, and you could implement it, within 4 years for sure. I mean, you could implement it within months, right?
right, right.
So, what would you say was the biggest change to go from 10K a month to 50K a month?
So the biggest change is something that I mentioned earlier is leadership. And the reason why that was such a difference maker for me is because there was a point in my business where again I was mobile, it was just me, and I was making 8 to 10K a month, and I had relationships with dealerships, and one of the dealerships was a Toyota dealership, and I always envisioned, having dealership contracts because I came from a place prior to starting my business. I was working with dealerships. And so I could always see the money. Like I knew it was there. And so part of the process of even acquiring a dealership is you're going to need to know how to manage and lead a team, right? If you can't hire, identify, lead, and manage a team, it does you no good to acquire a dealership contract. And so while I was out in the field, I was developing those leadership skills. I was listening to a lot of leadership stuff, John Maxwell's, the Jim Rohns, Miles Monroe. Like I was listening to these guys and learning all the different things of how to become a better leader. And so when the dealership presented the opportunity for me, it was an easy yes because like I had those skills already in place. And unfortunately, there are a lot of detailers who want dealership contracts, but it's like if someone came to you today and was like, "Hey, we've got a $500,000 contract. Do you want it?" You want to say yes, but you're not confident in your leadership skills to even be able to execute the way that you need to. So that leap was just me developing those skills prior to the opportunity even presenting itself.
That's gold. Now, what I kind of want to get into next is I want to go a little deeper on structure. Like, I want to say, really help the person out there right now. They're detailing, they're doing 5 to 10K a month. They're looking to scale to 50K a month and then 100K a month. So let's talk to the person right now who's, they're doing, 5 to 10 to 15K a month right now, and they're wanting to scale to 30, 40, 50K a month, right? Like, the one thing I learned about you, Sam, is most detailers, what they do is they're just trying to acquire, clients and customers, and it's not through dealerships. It's more so just mobile, going to people's houses and homes. But the first part of the question I had for someone at that level is like, there's a few different ways to structure the business. Now, you could do mobile, you could have your own garage, or you could focus mainly on dealerships. And from my understanding, at some point you made the pivot to fully focus on dealerships. And so what would your advice be to someone at that level? Like, should they focus on, really going the mobile route? Should they focus on eventually getting a building? Should they focus on landing ship or landing dealership clients? Should they focus on all three? Like, how can someone know how to structure that side of things?
Yeah, I think it starts with, what your vision is. It starts with, what is the outcome of where you want to be, 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. And so I think oftentimes, not just detailers, but entrepreneurs in general, they start a business, but they don't necessarily have an idea as to what the vision is supposed to look like. And so without a vision, you can't even make the proper decisions as to whether I should get a shop or whether I should get another van or whether I should get a dealership. Before I started my business, I always knew that dealerships was something that I wanted to get into. I didn't exactly know how I was going to get there. I didn't understand, all the steps and processes that it was going to take for me to land my first contract. But that was always the vision for me. And so what I had to do was I had to almost reverse engineer it, right? Okay, if I want to get a contract, what are some things that I have to have in place now? And so that's what I had to do. There are probably detailers who are listening to this who may not value dealership contracts, which is perfectly fine, right? They may want to have, 10, 15, 20 different mobile vans, or they may end up wanting to get a shop. I think there is no one way to do anything, right? I
Because
think,
there's people that are doing six figures a month doing fully mobile with a
right,
hybrid where it's
right,
mobile and a shop. So it's like there's multiple ways to skin an animal or whatever that saying
right,
is. And so it's
right.
like more so, I love what you're saying. You're saying like get a vision. What do you ultimately want to do? You could get to 100K a month with doing mobile only. You could do it only with dealership contracts. You could
Yeah,
do it only with, you know, um, a shop,
yeah,
but you could do all three. You could do a
right.
hybrid, but the bottom line is like really understanding what the end goal is and kind of going
Yeah.
from there. Now, let's say someone on here, they're doing mobile, maybe they have a shop and they have no dealership contracts. Like, what would be like a simple step-by-step process to getting that first contract? Like, how
Yeah,
did you get your first dealership
yeah.
contract, like practically?
So the way that I view acquiring dealership contracts is similar to, I recently got married a couple months ago, and
Congratulations.
thank you, I appreciate that. And I view closing a dealership contract almost like a marriage, right? And so when you're first looking into dealerships, just like the dating process, like you have to first identify what you like, what dealerships you want to work with, what dealerships, are, you know, for me, I like to work with dealerships who are in the area first and foremost. I don't want to drive too far, but when you get to a dealership, you want to just build rapport, right? You want to build rapport. You want to get to know the people that's in there. You don't want to just sell too quickly, right? Like if you see, a fine lady, walking out up the street, you're not going to say, "Hey, will you marry me?" Right? That's not the first thing you're going to say. And so oftentimes detailers are walking to a dealership and they're asking for commitment on the first, on the first time they're seeing these people. And so the first thing is to build rapport, right? You walk into a dealership, you kind of just introduce yourself to different people. You're not selling anything, you're not really giving anything. You might want to give them a card if they ask for it, but you're just there to just say, "Hey, how can I add value to you? My name is Sam. I do mobile detailing. Is there anything that I can do?" And so the first thing is to build rapport, but it takes time, right? It's not something that you can acquire overnight, right? If you have relationships already built and they have a need, then yeah, it can happen a lot quicker. But for me, it took me 2 years, before I actually landed my first contract. How it
Do you
happened?
feel like it needs to take that long though?
Absolutely
Like
not. It
with
does.
what you know now, how quickly could you like pretend I am a dealership right now
Yeah.
and I'm Audi. Like, are you coming in here with some donuts and gifts or like what's your approach gonna be?
That's not my approach. So my approach is I typically like to come in first and foremost at the end of the month because typically that's when they want to sell the most vehicles and that's when they have most need, right? So if you come in, let's say on a Friday before the weekend of the last month, you come in and say, "Hey, like my name is Sam, like do you have any details that, you would like to put on the lot that are backed up and I know it's the end of the month and you want to get these cars done." They're more likely to say, "Oh, absolutely, like we have a few cars." And so they're more likely to be open to you versus you come in on the first of the month, they're kind of just like, shrugging you off like, "Yo, like we don't need you right now." So there's no sense of urgency. But as far as the donuts, absolutely, you can do the donuts, you can do the gifts, you can do the water, you can do pizza, whatever works for you. For me, I just kind of I like to be low key, right? I like to be low key, just kind of, interact with different salespeople because most dealerships, believe it or not, like the salespeople aren't doing anything most of the day. They're just standing around. And so I like to kind of just hang out and, have conversations with different people, seeing, what the needs are, how the detailing department is doing. And so for me, again, it does not have to take 2 years. But in my opinion, if it takes you 2 years to really prepare and to really get everything in place to land a $500,000 contract, it's worth it, right? If it takes me 2 years to land a $500,000 contract that I'm going to have, for the lifetime of my business, it's worth it 1,000 times out of 1,000 times. And so, again, it all depends on the relationships that you have. It depends on how quickly you can build those, what their needs are. There's just a lot of different factors, but it doesn't have to take 2 years. It does take time. I will say that. Just like any relationship, right? Like if you're dating somebody, it's gonna take time to get married at some point. It doesn't happen in 3, 4 months sometimes. Sometimes it does, but like the average person doesn't get married in 4 months, right?
No,
So
right. So essentially, you're at a point now where you're building rapport, you're having valuable conversations with the team and sales reps. What's the next step once you kind of build that rapport up?
So while you're building the rapport, I think what's important is part of those conversations need to be you gathering information and gathering data, right? When you're dating somebody, you need to know what you like, what do you not like, And so some of the data that you need to get is how many cars are they selling a month, right? How many new cars are they selling? How many used cars are they selling? How many service vehicles are they cleaning a month? You could even ask how many detailers are working in the detail shops? How many do you need? And the reason why you want to gather this information is because you're gathering a game plan as to if they present this opportunity, you already know how much staff you need. You already know how many vehicles are coming in every month. You already know what the scheduling needs to look like. And so while you're building that rapport, it's all about getting data and understanding what their numbers are. And then that way, when you get an opportunity to pitch your offer or have a meeting with the general manager, you're already prepared. Like, this is not the time where he gives you the numbers and you're like, well, I have to think about it. No, you should already know these things even prior to the meeting. And so I think the
So
rapport and the
that's the next step, right? Like once you're kind of getting an idea on those numbers, like how are you pitching a meeting with the general manager?
So I think at that point, once you have the data, right after you get the data, now you have to figure out, okay, like where do you get the personnel, right? Where do I find my employees? How do I hire them? Before you even get the meeting, because you don't want to get the meeting and you don't even have the people, right? And so once you get the
So
data,
really, it probably makes the most sense to have like a mobile in-shop business initially because you already have traction, you already have proof. And then
right,
once you get your first hire, it probably makes sense to
right.
then start taking on dealership clients.
Right. Yeah. And so you really need one or two consistent and valuable employees to actually run the shop. And then all the other detailers, I mean, you can hire on different things like Indeed
Like
or,
Indeed, right?
yeah, like hiring other
But like
detailers.
for the person that has the team, they're looking to scale, they're low on work. Essentially, they're going in there, they're building rapport, then maybe going back the following week and, building some more rapport, asking for data. And then I'm assuming in that conversation, they're then at that point, the person should know about the detailing? And then how do you have that conversation? How do you get to the general manager? And then how do you have that conversation with them?
So one of the things that I do is when I'm building rapport, I like to offer free details, right? So if the general manager, obviously he's gonna want his car cleaned at some point. Say, hey, like I don't mind cleaning your car for free. I've got, I'm open this afternoon, and so you want to first kind of get your foot in that door, right? And part of you cleaning the general manager's vehicle is you want to show him the value that you're bringing because if he's got a nice car and you're detailing his car, for one, you're not charging him, so that's a plus. But also when he sees his car, he's like, yo, like this guy's really good at what he does. And so you want to do that, maybe even the sales manager, maybe even the used car manager. Like I'm not afraid to do free work because on the front end it's free, right? But on the back end, as you're building that rapport, that's when you get the return on your original investment. And so from there, then you can have those conversations like, hey, I can add value to your detail department. What are your needs? And you can have that conversation with them. But over again, it's something that's built over time because again, it's hard to for dealerships to just sign a $500,000 contract off of 3 visits and a clean car, right? Like you wash your car
When
one
you're
time.
talking about these dealerships too, because you keep saying 500,000, like, are you going after like, that car dealership that's kind of family owned, it's not a name brand, or are you more so going after the Audi, Mercedes, Toyota? Like, how do you approach that?
I'm going after all of the high-end dealerships. So BMW, Mercedes, I mean even Toyotas, really any of the all of these dealerships, the volume is going to be different. Like Toyotas, they probably sell the most vehicles. Mercedes don't sell as many, Ferrari doesn't sell as many, but when it comes to what you're going to charge per vehicle, it's all based on volume. But on average, a lot of these dealerships, you can make 40 to 50K a month.
That's solid. Now, how, like, as you got into the dealership way, right? Like the dealership contracts, how did you learn how to put like that contract together, right? Like how to pitch that?
Yeah. So I honestly,
And some people are listening right now. They're like, "Bro, this all sounds good." Like, you're putting them in a place where they're like, "Okay, so now I know what I need to do," right? But like
yeah,
practically, there's that other side to it, right? Where you need to know how to have that conversation. You need to know how to like quote them,
right.
right? Like, what does that process look like?
So here's what I would say. First and foremost is get you a coach, right? And I do a lot of coaching in this space. So if you are looking for assistance, then I'm your guy, right? But if you're not looking for a coach, what you can do is, and I had to figure all of this out on my own. And looking back at it, like God has really been, guiding me through every step of the way. And can I share a quick story? So
Absolutely.
it's actually funny how I got my first contract. So so the Toyota dealership that I'm currently working with, they have a collision department. And the collision director had reached out to me when I was mobile and was like, "Hey, I got a customer's vehicle. Can you come clean it?" So I would do that vehicle, and he loved the work. And once a week, he'd give me a call, and I just come in and just do a casual detail, right? And I'm building relationships at this time. Like they love my work. Like I don't know what I'm doing, but like I'm building the relationships. I'm building the rapport. And one day, the director comes to me and was like, "Hey, would you be interested in, running the detail for the entire dealership?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. Like, let's do it." And in the moment, I wasn't, I wasn't really prepared. I wasn't really understanding what goes into it, but I told him yes. And so, he's like, "All right, cool. I'll get back with you." So he got with the general manager of the dealership, and the general manager was a little hesitant because we're a growing company, right? He doesn't feel like we're capable of taking on the load of Toyota. And this was literally right before COVID hit. And I'm praying, I'm like, yo, God, please, like, I need this contract. I need this contract. And I never got the contract. But the dealership hired another third party detailing company. I'm just like, why would you hire them? Like, I've been doing the work with you guys. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And so a few months go by, COVID comes and basically wipes out inventory. Like, I mean, we all know what happened with COVID. Like, no one's buying cars. Like, and so in that moment, that company that took over ended up losing the contract because there was just no work and they were just struggling. Like, it was a mess. But I thank God that, we didn't get the account at that time because we probably would have ended up going out of business. So once that company left, the general manager came back to me and was like, hey, like the inventory is low. There's not a lot of work right now. This is a perfect opportunity for you to take on this contract. And I'm like, yo, let's do it. And so when I got the contract, I was starting from ground zero with them. Like they were selling like 100 cars a month, which is nothing. Like it was a very reasonable amount for me to work with. And then as the volume started to increase, I was building my team. But that's how I got the opportunity. But I kind of just went on a tangent. I don't
No,
remember what
that's
you
solid.
asked.
So talk to us a little bit more about like how do you know like is the dealership the one kind of coming up with the price structure and the hours and the time frame, or is that something you're doing on your end?
Yeah, so as far as the pricing, they already have in mind a budget as to what they want to spend, right? I think that, for someone who doesn't know the ins and outs of dealerships, it might be easy for them to take advantage of you. When I first got my contract, I don't want to say they took advantage of me, but they definitely had a lot of leverage. I had no leverage. So it's just like either take the numbers or you don't, right? So I was just like, whatever, I'll take whatever you guys give me. And so for me, I didn't have the insight on those numbers. I didn't have insight on a lot of different things. Again, I'm learning as I'm going. But for the person that's listening to me, again, I would say this a very strong baseline is for new and used cars. I would say start at $150 a car, right? Like this is regardless of what dealership is out there. I would say $150 for new or used cars is a really solid baseline, and you can kind of like play with the numbers from
And is
there.
that for like a full inside outside?
Yeah, so for the full detail for the used cars, it'll be full interior and exterior, and then for new cars, I mean those are brand new vehicles. They'll just require maybe a wash and wax, and then the inside just take out the plastics, put the mats in, and that's it. I mean those cars don't take that long, but between 125 to 150 is really the baseline for how you should price the vehicles at dealerships.
And the other thing is like, someone might be on here and say like, man, I'm used to charging $350 for a vehicle. However, with a dealership contract, you have that consistency, you have that volume. You don't have to think about how am I gonna get my next customer, right? So,
Right.
in a perfect world, if you were to go back in time, would you have kept doing mobile and then took on some contracts or how would you have structured that? Because right now you're 100% dealership contracts, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. So going back, I think the way that I did it, I don't know if I would have did anything differently, right? Me personally, I don't vision myself, being out in the field cleaning cars. Like my vision has always been, surrounding like my family, time freedom, money freedom. Like these are the things that I really value, and it's hard to really center your life around your family if you're out cleaning cars 8, 9, 10 hours a day, right? And so for me, I really wanted to get out of the mobile space because with dealerships, I don't have to clean any cars. I don't have to necessarily be at the shop. Like my objective is to make sure that payroll is run and that we have people on at the shop cleaning cars, and obviously, we have leadership teams, different systems in place to make sure that things are getting done. The quality control is getting done. Like we have systems in place so where I can be at home all day with my family and we're profiting 10, $15,000 a month, depending on the dealership. And like I don't have to be in the field. Like that's why I value dealerships so much. So I don't know if I would have done anything different. I think where I started out was where I needed to start out. And as I'm building my business, I ended up with dealerships. But again, that was always the vision for me.
Sure. Now, talk to us a little bit more about if someone's doing 10 to 20K a month and they're saying, man, I would love to get to 50K a month with dealerships, like roughly how many dealerships would they need to take on as a client? And then if you're signing a year contract, like are they paying that up front or are they just paying that monthly or how does that
Yeah.
work out?
There, there are different ways of acquiring dealership contracts. The way that we do it is we handle all of their inventory, new, used cars, service cars, collision cars. We basically take over their entire detailing department. Now, there are other mobile detailers. The way that they do it is they would meet up with the used car manager and they would formulate something where they're just focusing specifically on used cars. So any used cars that's coming into the dealerships, the mobile detailers would come and detail just the used cars, and the dealership is still responsible for like any other inventory. So the way that we do it, again, we handle all the inventory. And what was the question? I kind of
So for someone who wants to get to 50K a month with
right.
dealership contracts, like how many dealerships do they need to take on?
Um, to get to that number, you really need one dealership. You really need one dealership to make that type of money.
And then what about getting to 100K a month?
To get to 100K a month, it depends because again, some dealership contracts you may make 50K a month, some may be 25K a month, some may be 30K a month. So I would say two to three. It'd take two to three dealerships to make 100K a month.
So at 100K a month for you right now, how do you currently have that structured? Like how many people are working for you and how many dealerships do you currently have a contract with?
So we currently have three dealership contracts. We have one collision contract, and we currently have about 20 employees at this time.
Wow, so
About 20, 25. Yeah.
you have a team of 20.
About 25 actually, yeah.
That's a good chunk of people working for you. Now,
Okay.
what's a day in the life for you look like? Like I know you had mentioned a few things earlier, but what's, a typical week look like for you as the business owner?
Yeah,
How much time would you say on average you're spending per week to run this business?
yeah. So
With
we've
like
been,
things you have to do, because I know sometimes as entrepreneurs,
yeah,
like once you build your business to a great place and you have all this time freedom, sometimes we still like to try to
yeah,
do something,
yeah,
because we want to spend our time.
yeah,
But like, how much time does your business currently a week require from you? How do you structure your schedule?
yeah,
What roles do you currently function in as the
yeah.
business?
So when I first started getting dealership contracts, I mean, it was somewhat of a full-time job in terms of just where my focus was and making sure that we had certain systems in place, making sure they had the right people, the details were getting done. Like it was a full-time job when we first started. Now, you know, right now I really spend maybe 2 to 3 hours a day focusing on my business, and that consists of just communication with the leadership team at the shops, making sure that they have what they need, always strategizing different things that can help us, scale the companies, different leadership strategies that we can implement, things of that nature. But really, like 2 to 3 months, obviously reading books, watching videos, just trying to learn as much as I can. And then, outside of those 3 hours, I'm working out for a couple hours. I'm hanging out with the wifey. We're going out to eat. I'm just like, I'm not gonna say that, it's stress free. Like obviously there's stress that, comes with leading a team of this magnitude, but when you have the right systems and processes in place, it's just very seamless.
Man, that's incredible. Yeah, I feel like, there was a lot of value you gave on this call today. And for those of you watching right now, like if you're in the starting phase, obviously, build up your business, get some people working for you, and then move into the space where you land. I mean, one dealership contract, if that could bring you 25K a month, that would put you in a place where you have that consistent revenue coming in. And then obviously, if you're in a place where you're already doing 20, 30K a month, like you could take on that contract to push you to 50K a month. And then, it sounds like you really only need, 2 to 5 dealership contracts, depending on the volume, to be at 6 figures per month. So, Sam, thank you so much for coming on here today. And for those of you who watch this video, be sure to take the steps and use what you learned today to get the ball rolling in the right direction. But thank you guys for watching this video, and we will see you soon.